You're listening to the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wyatt. Have you ever been to the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science? Do you know who runs the show there? Well, we're going to make an introduction for you today with Angel Rohnke on the podcast.
Mississippi Outdoors is sponsored by Entergy Mississippi. Entergy is building a stronger and cleaner grid to power a brighter future and protect our great outdoors for generations to come.
You're listening to the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wyatt, and today with us, Angel Rohnke from the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science. You are the director and newly director, right?
Yes.
You hadn't been on the job that long, have you?
No, just a year in July.
One year in July. So 1 year. How would you describe that first year as the director of the museum for you? How'd it go?
It's been incredible. I've been at the museum for 20 years in October. So I love the museum, but never did dream that I'd become the director. And so this past year has just been incredible. I have an incredible team, and it's just been a lot of fun getting my feet on the ground. So I'm really excited about this second year.
Sure. The team, what size team are we talking about there?
Yeah. So we have about 60 staff at the museum, and some of them have been on the show with you before. So Emily Rizak, who's over our research, and Corey Wright, who's in education. And so, 60 staff, about half are public, so public exhibits, education, and then the other half are like research collections, the behind the scenes. So it's about 50-50 breakdown of the staff.
Yeah. What sort of led you to the museum initially all those years ago? How'd you end up there?
Well, my husband and I were both in upstate New York graduating, and we said, whoever gets a job first, that's, where we're going to go. And he said, Mississippi. He had gotten an interview. And I was like, seriously? Mississippi? Like, okay. He's like, well, they're going to fly us down. And so they flew us down. And of course, there was tornadoes. And I was like, where are we? Land of Oz. And I went to school for environmental education. I have a master's in environmental ed. And so I found the museum. And when we walked into the museum, I said, the only way I'm going to move to Mississippi is if I get a job at that museum. And it happened.
Yeah. So. Why did you have that reaction when you saw it?
It is just such a unique museum. I mean, I've traveled a lot across the nation, and there is no museum connected to an agency like ours. It's very unique. Probably the closest would be the, Museum of Natural Science in Raleigh, North Carolina, but they're not even connected to, it's very unique. And it's just a beautiful facility. It's just, even after being there 20 years, it's just the dioramas, the aquariums, having the live animals. It's just a very interactive, engaging museum. I mean, it's just truly a gem in Jackson. Yeah,
I was thinking that as you said that, we hear the hidden gem type moniker get thrown around, but it really, I think, probably applies for anyone listening that hasn't been to the museum. They probably would say the same thing if they go. And I hear that a lot from people who go.
It always amazes me at how many people, even here locally, have not been there to the museum.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I think just awareness. And that's kind of one of my things that I'm working on as the director is, a new branding campaign and just awareness. Just we're still here, we're not just the old museum, and just kind of bringing that back to life. In 2020, we started working on the LaFleur's Bluff playground, which is out front of the museum. And so we brought that to fruition, the largest ask ever received from Blue Cross and Blue Shield and Mississippi Foundation.
Wow.
$4.2 million. And so we've had over 500,000 visitors since opening of December of 2021. And that's free for everyone. So that's really been helpful, just creating that awareness. And of course, the old playground, it was just time. 20 years and it's seen its life. So we have this beautiful new playground. And so that helps to get kids outdoors. And that's one of my big items as director is connecting children to outdoors.
Mm-hmm. Is it fair to say that, the outreach and the education part as it relates to children at the museum is sort of a primary purpose? Because, like in talking with Corey and some of the others, that have been a part of the museum over the years, we constantly hear that message of what it's like to work with kids and the groups from schools who come through and the reactions they get.
Yeah. For me, education is, I mean, that's what I got my degree in. And when I moved to the museum, I was an educator. I was Corey.
That was your first
my
job.
first job. And
Okay.
so I think it is one of the most important positions. It's a lifelong connection to this agency. I mean, the kids will come there on a field trip, then they might come to summer camp, they might become a volunteer, and then a volunteer turns into an internship for the agency. And all along, you're connecting them to this agency. And, you know, some of these children might not have parents that hunt or fish, and giving them those opportunities and connecting to the outdoors. Just taking some of these students out behind the museum. And I mean, when you go on those trails behind the museum, it's like you're in the middle of a city and this is, you know, it's this gorgeous cypress swamp. And so taking the kids back there and, to me, that is definitely one of my hugest, you know, priorities as director is connecting the kids to the outdoors.
Yeah. So you were one of the educators there in your first role at the museum. And how long did you stay in that role?
I was in that role for 3 years.
Okay.
So I was an educator, and then I moved up to the education coordinator. So I oversaw the education department. And so we also have outreach. We have 4 outreach educators that cover all 82 counties of Mississippi, and it's free. And so we'd travel, you know, across the state. And so I was education coordinator for 4 years. And then after that, I became the assistant director of the museum. And I served for 9 years as the assistant director. And then in 2021, I became a deputy administrator for wildlife, fisheries, and parks. And that's when I built the LaFleur's Bluff complex. And at that time, I also created the internship program for the agency and kind of, you know, reinvigorated that. And then July is when I became director a year ago.
It's so interesting to hear that. I'm glad you went through all that because that's what I was thinking when I asked. Because you mentioned a minute ago, you never dreamed of being the director. But, and it really does sound like it wasn't like a plan or that's the destination. It's you went, this is just where I want to be. And the idea of success following passion, your passion for it is what has led to where you are now.
Right. Yeah, my husband and I mean, we literally said, we'll go there for 2 years. It's been 20. So, I mean, we joked about it. I mean, he just hit his 20-year anniversary this week. And I was like, oh, you said 2 years. Here we are, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it's been incredible. I mean.
You guys are official Mississippians. If somebody says to you, like at an airport, hey, where are you from? Do you say New York or do you say Mississippi?
I do say originally from upstate New York because when I go back home, they're like, what did you just say? And so it's funny. I have I say y'all and, you know, it's just, they don't know. They're like, what? But down here, they're like, you're not from here still after 20 years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The accent does wear, you know, you pick it up. We were in New York this past week and my daughter gave one of her friends up there who's from New York a t-shirt and it said, I don't have an accent. Y'all do. Nice. And so we hear a lot of that. The museum itself and sort of the, I guess maybe inventory is the right word. I have a young nephew who is fascinated with dinosaurs, who is just, you know, fascinated. And what he knows sort of is overwhelming. I hear he knows so much more about them than I do.
Yeah, the kids, they're amazing. I mean, they definitely know more about dinosaurs than us. And yeah, so we house over 2 million specimens back in our research collection. So you'll have to bring them for a VIP tour to come visit our paleontologists. And we have a paleontology lab and it's incredible, our behind the scenes and our research and our heritage program, what they do. And we open it once a year right now for our Nature Fest event. We open it and, you know, everybody can go back behind the scenes and go through the 2 million specimens and see everything that's behind the scenes. And it's really incredible. Yeah. And we've talked about maybe even adding on like a general admission add-on, you know, research tour. So that's something that we're kind of thinking about.
Okay. It's constantly changing and growing, it seems like, over the years, too. You know, I think that's probably, you know, a misconception, too. You hear the word museum, and sometimes the connotation is, okay, it's a building that sits there, and it houses what it houses, and that's just what it is. But that's really not the case. Yeah.
And we've hired some new positions. Most recently, I hired a facilities rental employee, and so she handles Christmas parties, and, you know, we've had weddings, and So there's a lot of different things that we're starting to do now. I'm just trying to think outside of the box and like, what is it that people need? And people need places to have meetings and conferences and, parties and weddings. And so we're really just trying to think outside the box with new and different things. This past year, we've started Boy Scout and Girl Scout sleepovers. So you spend the night at the museum. And so that's something new under this new employee. So that's really been fun.
Okay. Where do they sleep at?
Down in the aquariums.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Okay. And, just have a sleepover a night in the museum. I've seen the movies, okay, about, the museum in New York, not at museum, and everything comes to life. Confirm or deny that things do or don't come to life at the museum.
I've slept on that floor many of years and nothing comes to life. You just realize that, some of the old HVAC systems are old. And, when the heater comes on at 12:30 in the middle of the night, you're calling, your maintenance man, oh, something's not right here. So, but nothing else comes to life. So.
Okay. Yeah.
But what an experience for kids to spend the night.
Wow.
And just in our summer camps. So we also have an overnight where the kids will spend the night in the museum or they'll go to a state park and spend the night. And so those core memories, you just can't, you can't beat it.
Sure. You said several times, about the relationship with the agency and how unique that is. And for those listening that might have been confused by that, you're talking about here the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks and its relationship with the Museum of Natural Science. So from your perspective, why is that? It is unique, but why is that important and why is it advantageous really for both sides, that relationship?
Well, so many people don't realize that we are a bureau of the Mississippi Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. So we're always constantly trying to reinforce that. And, I've spoken a lot of times about just that connection with the children. That first, it might be their first interaction with our agency is a child walking through our door. And so I think, from a very young age, there's so much brain development. That 0 to 5, 90% of their brain is developing from 0 to 5. When they're coming in there and they're looking at the fish or they're going in our preschool room, you're connecting with the parents. I feel like it's really the first engagement with our agency. And so just building an awareness of who we are, what we do, connecting them to the outdoors. We're constantly fighting with gaming and electronics and phones. And so you're constantly families are trying to reconnect as families without the technology. So going, through the museum and seeing, the animals in their native habitats and learning. And if they don't go outdoors, they're still getting exposed to everything.
So. And from a funding standpoint and keeping the lights on and, funding the projects you want to do, is that also a reason it's advantageous to be a part of the agency or is it, are those things? I'm
very grateful, yes, to be a part of the agency. The funding, we're, from 10 years ago, we're, double what, our budget was. So really? I'm so grateful, yes, for the support of the museum and the park and everything. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
What is you mentioned messaging too, continuing to just spread the good news of the museum and what it is and what it offers, new things coming around. I think even in just one paragraph a minute ago, you mentioned some things about the museum. There's a lot of people listening that didn't know were available, whether it be the trails behind or the ability to, have a venue you can rent or spend the night. So how do you go about continuing to spread the message and market it, to the greater public?
We're working on a campaign with the agency's marketing department. So that's one thing, just an overall awareness. We use all the different social media platforms. Obviously, we collect people's emails, so we use mailing lists. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how we try to, keep the word, out and going. So,
well, it's almost like, I think about, as you describe your career path and sort of, everything that falls under your umbrella now as a director. It's a big job. You got to consider a lot of things on a daily basis, mm-hmm. from the details of what's going on inside the museum to the greater stuff of outreach. It's a pretty big umbrella mm-hmm. that you're carrying, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is, but it's fun. I mean, I love it. I mean, we're about to go under renovations. We've been in that facility for 25 years, and it's time. We have a $1 million project that's going to kick off in September. We're going to, redo the entire lobby, just the visitor flow, conference spaces, meeting spaces. So all that's coming too. So it's just a lot of fun. I mean, yes, it's a lot of work, but it's exciting. It just never stops, and it's great. I mean, to be a part of something that's just getting better.
Yeah. You say it kicks off in September, like the actual work.
Construction.
How's that, displacement and having to kind of work around that?
It shouldn't be too bad. Originally, we were supposed to start this summer, which our highest visitation is in July. So I'm kind of grateful. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So
that's great. If someone's listening, they've considered going, haven't done it yet, put it off, drive by. Well, we should, but maybe later. What do they need to hear to go ahead, pull on in, buy the tickets, get online, reserve it, and go? Like, what do they need to? Yeah,
you won't be disappointed. I mean, it's just, there's something for everyone from any age. I mean, from babies to adults. Like, it's such a great family outing. It's affordable. It's in the middle of everything. You can, hit the park. The park's free. We have a concession stand. You can grab lunch. You can come into the museum and cool off in the afternoon. There's always something fun going on. We have a touch tank. We have divers in the tank. We have educators out on the floor with live animals. There's just always something fun and engaging happening. We have 2 traveling exhibits. We will be getting some really fun ones coming up. We have Ice Age animals coming in the spring. And then next fall, we'll be getting a Lego exhibit.
Really?
So,
wow.
So these traveling exhibits, we bring these in to bring back those repeat visitors.
Okay.
And so.
Did you say divers in the tank?
Yes.
Really? What do they do?
We have scuba divers that dive in the tank and they feed the fish. And so we have interactive dives. They'll interact with the guest. And so we even have something in the works. We're going to be starting to do possibly mermaid dives for birthday parties.
Oh, wow. That's great. Chip, you can have your birthday with a mermaid one of these days.
I know my niece will enjoy that. I think she had her last birthday at the Science Museum.
Is that right?
Yeah, she enjoys visiting with Corey and touching the snakes and alligators and everything like that.
Corey, you mentioned Corey Wright. He was on season 1 of the podcast, and it was really interesting to sort of hear his stories about interacting with kids and the different, animals and an alligator, those kinds of things. He had an experience where he passed out one time handling alligator. He
taught me how to, I was deathly afraid of snakes when I moved here.
Really?
And so, so when I was in the interview, they walked into the animal classroom and, they picked up a paper and they were like, oh, this is Rose. And I was thinking, oh, Rose. And well, it was a huge, black indigo snake.
Okay.
And I almost fell out. And Corey, I was like, oh, yeah. So I had the same experience. But over time, Corey is really the one who helped me to handle the snakes and learn how to handle them and, get over that, instilled fear. Yeah.
I go back to, that's the one thing that made an impression on me when you began to talk earlier is the team, aspect of the people, all of the, from different parts of the country, from different, genres in terms of what their expertise is and different responsibilities. The team of people that are connected to that museum, it's really fascinating. And we have had the good fortune that many of the team have sat in the chair that you're in. That's another thing. The people that are involved makes it a pretty special place, doesn't it?
It's absolutely incredible. I mean, it makes my job I'm just so proud of every one of the staff members. They're just the most dedicated, passionate employees. And that's what drives just all the fun that we do. It's just hard work and passion. And I mean, we reach 90,000 people a year. And it's because of the work that they do.
Really cool. Angel, thanks for coming and being on the podcast. It's a pleasure to meet you. And we certainly are going to do this again. And just thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
She is Angel Rohnke, the museum director at the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science. I hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. We appreciate you listening, and we'll see you outdoors.